Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking an absolute masterclass on how to create high-retention, scroll-stopping, viral short-form content. Seriously, if you've ever poured hours into an edit only to have it completely flop on the feed, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to decode the exact anatomy of what makes a video explode.
So, you might be wondering, why do your videos get swiped away while others seem to effortlessly pull in millions of views? You might think it's just the algorithm playing favorites. But here's the hard truth. It has absolutely nothing to do with luck. It's entirely about psychology, visual momentum, and technical execution. And today, we're taking complete control over all three.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's the roadmap for our journey today. First, we'll cover the ultimate hook formula. Second, typography and visual hooks. Third, mastering short-form transitions. And finally, flawless 4K export settings.
All right, Section 1, the ultimate hook formula. The psychology of attention.
Listen, going viral isn't a random accident. It's about intentionally building what we call a curiosity loop. Think about it. Your viewer is speeding down the highway of their social feed at 100 miles an hour. You need them to hit the brakes, turn their car around, and actually pay attention to you. Top creators use an exact three-step formula to build that loop. Let's break it down. Step 1 is the context lean. You immediately establish clarity so the right viewer leans in. For example, the tech in the Vegas sphere is insane. Biggest screen ever built. Step 2 is the scroll stop interjection. This acts like a stun gun. You say, but get this. It completely halts their scrolling momentum. Step 3 is the contrarian snapback, a shocking pivot that goes in a totally different direction. You say, the screen is actually the least impressive part. The most impressive part is the audio. Boom, hook, line, and sinker. You've given them context, stunned them, and handed them a mystery they just have to solve.
The absolutely crucial point here is that you have to compress your speed to value. In short-form content, your video will literally flatline if you don't deliver massive value in the first 4 seconds. Just look at the difference here. A weak hook says, you should take magnesium because it's a core mineral. Well, that requires previous knowledge and doesn't offer an immediate benefit. But a strong hook, it says, if you want better sleep, you need to be taking magnesium. You are front-loading a massive benefit, better sleep, and introducing your topic as the magical solution, all within the first couple of seconds.
But hey, spoken words are only half the battle. Remember, people read faster than they can hear. Your visual hook is just as, if not more, important than what you're saying out loud. Slapping 3 to 5 words of bold, eye-catching text on screen the literal millisecond the video starts, paired with a bit of subtle motion, is incredibly powerful. It hijacks the viewer's visual processing center before they even register your audio.
Moving right along to Section 2, typography and visual hooks. Keeping eyes glued.
Once you've grabbed their attention, you gotta keep their eyes glued to the screen. Believe it or not, the font you choose completely dictates the visual momentum of your video. The right font makes reading effortless. The wrong one feels like a chore and gets you an immediate swipe away. Let's look at the heavy hitters right now. Montserrat Extra Bold is brilliant for a clear, authoritative, heavy impact. Perfect when you're breaking down complex topics. If you want that playful, high-energy Mr. Beast-style vibe, Komika Axis is your best friend. For a perfectly balanced modern aesthetic, think Ali Abdaal. Poppins is massively popular. And if you're aiming for a sleek, luxurious, or minimalist brand, Gabarito fits the bill without distracting from your visuals. Oh, and to really make these pop, experts advise using bright colors with a subtle glow effect, paired with fast, snappy animations that load in a fraction of a second.
4. Just 4. This is the golden rule, the absolute magic number of short-form typography. You want to limit your on-screen captions to a maximum of 3 or 4 words per screen. Why? Because it guarantees instant readability. If you put a whole paragraph on there, the viewer gets overwhelmed and bails. 3 to 4 words creates this nice, rhythmic, visual beat that the viewer effortlessly consumes as he speaks.
And while we're talking about visual hooks, here's a real game changer, the green screen secret. You can easily snag high-quality green screen assets, like dynamic subscribe buttons or bell notifications. You just drop them into your editor, use the chroma key tool to pull out the green background, and instantly you have a professional, interactive call to action floating perfectly over your footage. It boosts engagement without pulling focus from the whole shebang.
Which brings us to Section 3, Mastering Short-Form Transitions. The art of the cut.
Transitions are basically split-second visual magic tricks. When you nail them, the viewer feels them more than they consciously notice them. They completely dictate the pacing of your explainer. Let's start with the high-energy stuff. These are punchy, they're fast, they keep momentum relentless. The whip pan uses a rapid camera swing for motion blur, perfectly hiding a cut for an outfit or location change.
The jump cut deliberately skips time from the exact same camera angle, creating a staccato rhythm that absolutely kills for comedic timing. Swipe cuts use a hand or object crossing the lens for a clean, interactive wipe. And the spin or rotate matches camera spins across clips, injecting massive kinetic energy into sports or dance content.
Okay, let's take a breath and slow things down just a bit. On the more sophisticated end, we have cinematic and seamless transitions. These require a bit more planning, but man, they create that incredibly satisfying, wait, how did they do that moment. The match cut carefully aligns similar shapes or actions across completely different clips. The mask transition uses an object or person walking across the frame to literally wipe the old scene away and reveal the new one. The cut and fade mixes fast pacing with sudden emotional fades to black, giving the viewer a quick psychological breather. And the split screen beautifully showcases simultaneous perspectives or slick before and afters.
Now, a huge favorite among elite editors is the Luma fade. This creates a hyper-smooth transition based purely on brightness levels, fading the bright areas out and the dark areas in, or vice versa. Creators use Luma fades to string together those epic sweeping drone shots or highly polished transformation reveals. It totally elevates a basic cut into a genuinely cinematic experience.
And finally, Section 4, Flawless 4K Export Settings, delivering the quality. All right, time for a hard truth. You could have the most psychologically gripping hook, the crispest typography, mind-bending transitions, and it will all completely bomb if your final export is a compressed, blurry mess. You have to deliver the quality. So if you're editing on CapCut, here's your absolute baseline checklist before we even touch resolution. First, turn off AI UHD. It tends to overprocess the video and makes it look super unnatural. Second, turn on Smart HDR so your colors and contrast really pop on modern phone screens. And third, actually this is a big one, always make sure the audio export box is checked. You would be shocked by how often people render out a totally silent masterpiece.
So, let's talk about the real secret sauce for preserving detail: bitrate. Bitrate is simply the amount of data your video processes per second. You could export in stunning 4K, but if you have a low bitrate, your video will still look like a pixelated potato during fast motion. You need to set a custom bitrate of around 50,000 kilobytes per second, or if you don't want to mess with the numbers, just switch it to high. That is exactly how you preserve those fine textures and sharp edges once your file hits the cloud. And this brilliantly illustrates our next technical hurdle: your codec. For years, H.264 has been the absolute universal standard. It works on everything. But if you want a cleaner result, without creating a massive, practically unuploadable file, you need to make the switch to HEVC, which is also known as H.265. This highly efficient codec retains incredibly crisp micro details and modern color depth, all while magically keeping your file size totally manageable.
Let's pull all of this together into a bit of a cheat sheet. If you're exporting natively for TikTok or Instagram Reels, aiming for 1080p at 30 frames per second with an 8 to 12 megabit per second bitrate is exactly the sweet spot to avoid their aggressive compression algorithms. But if you're putting this on YouTube, where quality is king, push that up to full 4K, 60 frames per second, and a massive 35 to 68 megabit bitrate. A quick pro tip here: matching your timeline's frame rate to your source footage, like only exporting at 60 frames per second if you actually shot in 60 frames per second, is absolutely critical to guarantee perfectly smooth, stutter-free playback.
So, you now possess the complete blueprint. You have the psychological hook to stop them right in their tracks, you have the typography and transitions to hold their attention captive, and you have the pristine export settings to deliver it all in breathtaking quality. The only question left for you is this: what story will you tell before they scroll away? Take these tools, get out there, and build your viral masterpiece. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and keep creating.